Welcome to the training video for the Platinum System for Painting titled Advanced Training for Database Management. For a demo of the Estimating for Painting software, enter the search Estimating for Painting Contractors -best. Remember, when viewing this video, you can always use your pause button to freeze the screen if you need to study the contents. This video will show our users how the database structure works and how to use the databases to change or edit the default data to fit their specific needs. Let's get started. To fully understand our database structure, here are the main things you will need to learn and understand. First, the Platinum systems feature what is called interrelational database functionality, which basically means we have several databases that talk with each other that will allow the software to do automatic programming, or the software will literally program itself. First, the two most common terms we will be using are source, which refers to the cell where data is entered. The other term is target, which is the cell where data goes. A source cell will show you a blank field at the top of the screen, where a target cell will show a formula. A formula basically starts with the equal sign. So, number 2 on our list, when you click on a cell, check it to see if it is a source cell, it's blank, or a target cell with a formula. Only enter data in source cells. If you enter data in a target cell, you will erase the program and the system will no longer work without errors. Number 3, remember, when making changes to your software, only program your master file, which only you, the company authorized programmer, should have access to. Once you have made your changes, then save the file as a template file, which will be used by all estimators within your company. At the bottom of the screen is a reminder, in the software navigation area in column A, you will find the database hotkey is only on the job summary navigation button at the top right hand side of the screen. Let's take a look at that software screen. This is the Takeoff Spec screen at the upper left hand corner. So when you go down to the job summary screen, upper right hand corner, database hotkey, that's where you're going to be doing all of your database management stuff. Before we actually get into the databases, let's go back to the Takeoff Spec and see some of the functionality of the software. When you have the first couple of items entered here, you're told to specify the paint systems. When we click on specify the paint system for the first line here, it brings a drop down box. Now remember, a drop down box automatically indicates that it's the database. So when we click on that, it will give us the list of the systems that we can put on that surface. In this case, we have office walls that we want to put something on it. Now we can change the structure of this drop-down box. Because it is a database, we can change the database to fit whatever order it wants to show on screen when we click for that option. So let's start with the databases, where they are, and how we can start editing them to fit our needs. Back to the summary. The job summary button, we click on the database in column V, upper right hand corner, and that will take us to our database hotkey. In here, the manufacturer database is explained here. This is for material prices for different manufacturers. When we click on that database, this allows us to enter. The light yellow indicates that it is an input field. Same thing with what's underneath each manufacturer or supplier. These are input fields that allow the user to put in what is the paint name, spread rates, and prices. 3, 2, and 1 is the grade of paint. The 3 is the competitively priced paint. You'll notice it's lower price. 2 is what you typically buy. 3 is when they specify a higher grade paint. And you can put in that description here. In this particular case, we're at the primers at the top. Then it picks up the finished materials down here lower on line 62. So this screen would be used for basic data entry when you put in your supplier-specific product names, spread rates, and prices. Back to the database hotkey. The next thing on the list, we have our company data, and that's explained in the other videos. Our specifications is where it gets interesting to the materials and the functionality. You'll see here that our database hotkey for that item will give us a list of the drop-down areas that we want to show for the surfaces that are applicable to the interior surfaces. On the exterior column, what is the descriptions we want for the exterior surfaces. So you can change these to whatever you want. If there's something missing, you can go ahead and enter a new item that is not there. Back to our database hotkey. Here's where it gets kind of fun. We have the interior specs. Now the interior spec says we have the baseboard and a list of all the systems that we want to put in that column. A system is the primer coat and the finish coat as defined in A. Notice when I click on this cell, a drop down occurs. When a drop down occurs, that automatically tells you it's looking to a different database to find that system. We haven't got to the systems yet. We're just selecting what systems do you want under baseboard. Let's take a look at the walls as example in column AA. We have the list of the systems we want to show on screen when we click on a wall category. It will be in this order here. If you want to change the order, you can change this order to whichever one you want. To do that, you would copy this area, and then you'd pick a blank area somewhere over here and just say paste it. It doesn't matter for borrowing from another field. I can then delete all the items in this column and then copy and paste what I want in this column in order that I want it. Notice I said copy and paste slowly and with emphasis. It's important you do not drag and drop. If you drag and drop, that screws up the programming. Anything to do with the database must be copied and pasted. So that's where you can change the order of however you want this to show up underneath walls. Now let's say underneath the skim coat area, we want to add a fourth item. Skim coat with a 4-coat system. Well, I have to hit the down arrow button and it says skim coat. I see 3 skim coat. I don't see, there's 2 skim coat. Okay, it's in a database. I have to set up that database first before I can select it. Again, that drop downs mean these are databases. And we're going to show you that database coming up. It's going to be in a systems database. So basically here's where you can put things in whatever you order you want when it pops down for the drop down for whatever category it comes under. Slide back over here to the left. We go to the database hotkey. We can see that we can have the interior specs and the exterior specs. Works exactly the same as the interior specs where you can put things in whatever order you want. Now the systems. Now notice the previous screen communicated with the systems database. This is where the interrelational database functionality kicks in. You're having databases talk to each other. Here this says I have these systems defined. If it's one coat of wall primer only, in my columns to the right, I have wall primer only and the other columns are left blank. Wall covering primer only for wall covering when you're only putting on a prime coat. When it's like 1 coat of primer and 2 coats of flat latex, the first box is the primer, the second one is flat latex, the third one is flat latex. Now you're noticing these are drop down boxes, which means it's talking to yet another database where I can hit the drop down box. And it says here's a list of all the types of materials that we have set up for both primers and finish materials. Select what you want for the type of primer, wall primer, wood primer, metal primer. What do you want for the finished material? Flat latex, you can have an eggshell latex, industrial enamel, etc. down the list. Here's where you can build your own interior systems where you can at the bottom put in a new one that you may not have. 1 coat primer, 2 coats of intumescent coating, in which case what's my primer for that, what's my finished materials here and here, or however many steps you want. We have 5 steps, finished steps allowed in this program. Back to my database hotkey. Next on the list we have our production rates. For the production rates we have the center column, which is in yellow, which means this is what you can change. Change that to whatever you want. It will automatically recalculate the green columns to either side. Green meaning it will recalculate. You can change it if you want, but if you do, it destroys the programming and becomes a constant factor and not calculated automatically for you. So my percent that is showing up here in column G tells me how much do I want to adjust the production rate up or down for the slower or faster production rates. If I was to change this to 30, then it'll automatically recalculate these to a different production rate. If I change this to 40, recalculates it again to 40% difference. We'll go back to 25 for my default and leave that alone. Down at the bottom we have our customer data, which is just that, a database that's tied to your customers. Enter data only. There's no interrelational activities going here except for when it's pulled from into the programming. We go back to the takeoff summary, back to my database hotkey, and we also have one of those for the architect that you can set up on your system if you wish. Over here on screen in column I, we have some help suggestions that tells you how to set up a new line for material, how to set up a new line for if material is already there. These are little helpful hints that will help you remember how to work with the database so that everything works smoothly for you. We go back to the summary page here, and you can see again a reminder: the database hotkey is found here, and by changing the database it will change how everything works with your now Takeoff paint specifications or anything else where a database is used and speaks with itself. If you have any questions on how the databases work, or you need some help setting up a new trade or setting up a new system that doesn't exist, can't quite figure out how to set it up and where to start, just go ahead and give us a call. So that will conclude for the database functionality. On screen now you will see a list of all the other products that we offer. Now is a good time to pause your screen, take a look at that. And of course, if you have any questions on anything, the phone number and the email are listed on this screen as well. Thank you for watching this video, and have a great day.